This episode of Anime Ambush is brought to you by the Pixelation Patreon. If you would like to get early access or your name in the credits of videos just like this one, click the link in the description and pledge your support for $1 or more. I truly appreciate the support. It's a poorly kept secret here on this channel that one of the most important things I look for in a new anime is whether or not the opening is an absolute bop. It might seem strange to some that I would watch an entire series based on what is effectively a glorified music video, but see, it makes perfect sense when you consider the fact that I am not a heathen. It can be lonely here on the island of people who don't skip the openings, but I don't regret a damn thing. In a perfect world, every single anime would be worthy of a 10 out of 10 on Mal. But since we still haven't got a second season to A Sister's All You Need, obviously this isn't a perfect world. No, not all anime are created equal, so what happens when an opening is exquisite? The music makes you lose control, the visual direction brings a single tear to your eye as you imagine what lies in store, and you plop down to give the series a fair shake with popcorn in one hand and a daki in the other, but it's awful. It's a nightmarish experience I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy, but it's happened to me at least 5 times. It was 3 years into the 2010s, and I was searching for a new anime to sink my teeth into. I landed on Danganronpa the animation after stumbling upon the OP, Never Say Never, by TKD Z2B, and thus began my long and winding journey with this series. Dragon's Rondo, the Fascination, suffers from a condition known as the deep throat debacle, meaning it takes an already lengthy scenario, in this case around 20 hours worth of story, and tries to cram it into 6 hours. It's thanks to this deep throat debacle that a ton of important character and plot development is cut from the series, making it feel less like a proper adaptation and more like a rushed cash grab. I think what really makes this opening work is its focus on the characters, even if most of them are static PNGs with cool/edgy visual effects. I have to say, the fact that the only thing animated here is the strangely sensual dancing Monokuma makes me both uncomfortable and aroused at the same time. In all seriousness though, what is this? I mean, it's one thing to include a random dance, but it's another thing entirely to make that random dance whatever this is. In addition, the song used here is another reason this OP is so memorable. TKD Z2B, the group behind Never Say Never, is made up of 3 disparate acts. Natalie Oliveri, who contributes the sultry vocals for the chorus, the 49ers, a hip-hop group based out of Newark, Delaware, and is made up of individual acts Markitect and Joss Mace, and lastly, an artist named Tribeca, who has effectively been scrubbed from the internet as no information could be found despite my best efforts. I couldn't not be fascinated by this seemingly random assortment of musical talent. It's not every day you come across an anime studio, especially one such as Larke, recruiting Western talent for their cartoon about a talking teddy bear making schoolchildren slaughter each other. I binged Dang It Grandpa The Laceration until I caught up. At the time, it was still airing, at which point I proceeded to brainwash my friends into doing the same. It was such a brilliant concept that captured my fascination, but as soon as I got my hands on the game, I realized this opening might be the only thing about it that holds up nearly 10 years later. It's not the worst adaptation, but it's far from being a good anime. I made an entire video talking about how the Caligula adaptation was terribad, so to avoid repeating myself, let's summarize. Like with Benedict Danganronpa Batch the animation, they tried to cram a story that normally takes around 25 hours to complete into 6, but this time, they went with the tried and true trope, the anime original ending. In addition, most of the series is non-canon to the game it's based on, and as a result, it's absolute horse shit most of the time. Its OP, on the other hand, is actually magnificent. I adore how its selective use of color contrasts with the stark blacks and whites that dominate the canvas, as if a visual metaphor for the world of Mobius and its automated struggle-less society. I found it interesting, in hindsight, how the opening makes it seem as if we're about to get a really great and thought-provoking story, packed with exciting mental and physical warfare, but instead, all we get is a disorganized, inefficient mess of an anime that delivers one final middle finger to its audience with the lack of a proper adaptation. In other words, please play the Caligula Effect Overdose. It might not be the best game you'll ever play, but damn if it's not better than this piece of 3-year-old garbage. In the fall of 2017, a series aired that tested the limits of what I was willing to put up with. In the immortal words of Aaron Hansen,
"You gotta draw the line somewhere! Aaron, we gotta draw a fucking line in the sand, dude! Aaron, we gotta make a statement! You gotta look inside yourself and say, what am I willing to put up with today? Not fucking this!"
Evil or Live follows a host of youngsters sent to rehab to kick their crippling addiction to Reddit. It turns out, however, the facility is more akin to a prison, and it only gets worse from there. Produced by Howliners Animation League, known for such masterpieces as Fox Spirit Matchmaker and Hitori no Shita the Outcast, Evil or Live presents a slightly interesting story in a wholly uninteresting way that, despite me watching it to completion, made me feel like it was nothing but a waste of time. Its opening, though? Mwah! When I found the music video for NormCore's Soredemo Boku wa Ikiteiru, I couldn't believe my eyes, let alone my ears. It seemed to me that such an earworm was wasted on a mediocre anime like Evil or Live, a belief that still rings true to this day. It suffers from the same problem as Paradigm Box, in that it convinces us we're about to get this epic story about people fighting back against the machine, and while that's more or less what it's about, Evil or Live isn't nearly as exciting as that. It genuinely pains me to include this one because while Mayoiga is not a traditionally bad anime, the quality gap between the opening and the story writing is phenomenal. I saw it as it aired back in 2016, and each episode left me salivating. The mysteries and building suspense were simply too much to bear. Alas, as Mayoiga marched confidently towards its conclusion, the resolution of its disparate subplots left much to be desired. I like how certain OPs will tease spoilers without context, so after finishing these series and upon rewatching the opening, you'll notice little hints here and there that you might have missed. In the opening for Erased, for example, the culprit is revealed if you slow the playback speed. Also, in the second opening for the Future Diary, who survives to the end and who doesn't is spoiled based on whether or not they're colored in or grayscale. And then there's the opening for Mayoiga, which reveals the physical manifestation of the main character's trauma, which I won't delve into here. Because Mayoiga suffers from a bloated cast, the OP feels it necessary to showcase each of the 30+ characters, causing it to feel kinda like the first My Hero Academia OP, but despite that, the character designs and poses are varying enough that it avoids feeling stale. In fact, that's the one thing I have to say in Mayoiga's defense. The bloated cast is actually its greatest asset. I may have been disappointed by the overall path the series took, but if there's ever been an opening that can get me to consider watching a bad series for the third time, it's this one. Speaking of bad anime, if there has ever been an anime to serve as the Moby Dick to my Captain Ahab, it's Big Order. I picked it up as it was airing because it was the spiritual successor to Sakai Asuno's The Future Diary, and at the time, that was one of my favorite anime. Big Order was interesting, to say the most. and I kept up with it throughout its remarkably short 10-episode run, at the end of which I was so disgusted by the piss-poor writing, the lack of any logical resolution, and the seemingly recycled character designs that it became my contender for worst anime of all time. I've been meaning to devote an entire episode of Anime Ambush to this wholesale, generic JoJo's Bizarre Adventure knockoff, but that's neither here nor there. Its opening, on the other hand, is such a banger that I've seriously considered taking time out of my life to give this animated abortion a second watch. I have always been a fan of the gothic metal, baroque pop aesthetic, going as far back as when Ollie Project performed the ED for Dot Hack Roots, and the same can be said for this OP, which is performed by Yousei Teikoku, the group responsible for the second ED and third OP for the Future Diary. As such, this one slaps harder than anything else on this list, and with the fiery passion of 1,000 suns. Its clean and crisp visuals, alongside the anxiety-inducing music and the excellent editing, gives this opening the top spot on this list. If only the same could be said about the actual anime, but that's a topic for another video. Thank you for watching this episode of Anime Ambush. I know you could have watched any video about, terrible anime today, and I am honored that you've chosen mine. If you'd like to see more stuff like this, please consider subscribing here on YouTube, or if you'd like to help support the channel, get early access, and get your name in the credits all at once, you can join my Patreon by clicking the link in the description. Until next time, this is Pixelation, reminding every single one of you to stay pixelated.